All right, welcome to Abilene Means Business. This is the monthly TV show of the Abilene Area Chamber of Commerce. I am James Holland, the Executive Director and host of the show. And we're here in the fall of 2016. The leaves are starting to change and finally some cooler weather. But everybody's, Claire and I were visiting earlier, everybody's been mowing their lawn throughout the entire year. No break in the rain this year, it's a good thing, I suppose. So the drought is over. But anyway, today our guest is Claire Anderson. Hi, Claire.
James.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. And Claire has Prim and Popper, which is located at 1152 Old Highway 40, east of Abilene, before you get to Jeep Road. So we'll have Claire tell us a little bit about her business, and why don't you go ahead and introduce your business to us.
Well, as James said, I have Prim and Popper Parlor. I board and groom dogs and cats. I currently only groom dogs. I used to groom cats as well. It just has gotten too noisy and too stressful. Cats just get too upset out there. It's too hard nowadays. So I groom dogs 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. I stay pretty consistently busy on that. And I board all the time. I have people call me and they say, do you board over Christmas? And if you're a kennel and you don't board over Christmas, you have a death wish. Yeah. So that's what I do.
You make a lot of your profits on a seasonal basis like that, don't you? So
you do.
Yeah. Okay. So what? First of all, the name Prim and Popper. I've kind of wondered, where did you come up with that name?
That was my standard poodle. I started grooming when I was 15 years old. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something with dogs, well, something with animals. So I started calling all the vet hospitals and saying, do you have anything I can do? Can I clean cages? Can I mop floors? Da, 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 da. And they were all like, no, we don't need you. So I called a grooming facility and I said, kid, do you have anything I can do? And she said, well, all we do is groom dogs. Would you like to learn? I was 15. What did I have to lose? So I said, sure. I went down and talked to her, and she had learned to groom in New York. And when I was 15, that was so many years ago. That was like 35 years ago. And back then, she had paid $1,800 for an 8-week course, which was a lot of money 35 years ago. Yeah. So she made me the deal that if I would groom for her for free for 8 weeks, she would teach me how to groom. Again, what did I have to lose? I was 15 years old. Yeah. So that's when I learned how to groom. I worked my way through college grooming. My parents, I was in Salt Lake at the time. My parents moved from Salt Lake to Oklahoma, and I went with them. Went to Northern Oklahoma College, and then I went back to Utah. I went to the University of Utah for a year. When I was in Oklahoma, I met my current husband, Scott, my only husband. And I went back to Oklahoma to be with him, and that was in Stillwater. So when I went back to Stillwater, I went to Oklahoma State University, and there was a kennel there called Alice's Ark. And I worked at Alice's Ark while I was going to Oklahoma State. And then he got transferred to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We moved down there. And I worked for a vet, Arlington Veterinary Hospital. And then I also worked for a grooming place in Mansfield while I went to the University of Texas at Arlington. Got my bachelor's from there. He got transferred to East Texas, and then I quit doing anything other than, well, he got transferred to East Texas. I quit grooming. I went to work for the University of Texas at Tyler as a graduate assistant. Worked in the GIS program, which was a lot of fun. Yeah. But I had the kids. We got transferred to, Scott quit. No, we got transferred to Palestine. From Palestine, which if I die and go to hell, I'll be back there. Scott got transferred to Oklahoma, Nebraska. And when I got to Oklahoma, Nebraska, I went to work for the Brush News Tribune. Nope, sorry. From Oklahoma, Nebraska, we went to Brush, Colorado. We were only in Oklahoma for 9 months. Went to Brush. And when we were in Brush, I went to work for the Fort Morgan Times and for Morgan County REA. So by then I was completely out of dogs. I hadn't done anything dog for probably 5 years. And I was certain that I would not do anything dog again. Yeah. But our pet that I love died. And I told my husband, I'm not gonna get another dog for like 6 months or a year. And 2 weeks later, I brought home a standard poodle puppy. And his name was Prim and Popper. So Popper is what brought me back into doing dog stuff. When I was in Fort Morgan, I had obedience classes, and I trained him in Fort Morgan, and we did a lot of obedience competitions in Colorado. When we came back here, I applied for some jobs around here. My kids were 3 and 5. I didn't find a job. I didn't really want to be that far away from my kids. So for about a year and a half, I substitute taught up at Kennedy Elementary. And then I also started grooming dogs out of my garage, which was a huge mess when I first started. My neighbors were so upset. But then they discovered that it was not a big deal. It was not a problem. So that worked out well.
So was that here
That was in Abilene. No, that was on Charles Road.
On Charles Road, okay.
When we moved to Charles Road, I called Stu Etherington, and I said, Stu, I want to start a business. And he came out and he talked to me, and he said, this is silly, Claire. Why do you want to start a business? He said, there are about 3 things you can do in your house. One is daycare. The other is cut people's hair. The other is cut dogs' hair. So we set up a meeting so I could get a conditional use permit to groom dogs.
Right.
And I had neighbors calling me saying, are you crazy? Are you really going to do this in our neighborhood? They were so upset. So I went to that meeting, and they had to relocate it because so many people showed up. They were absolutely shocked. They couldn't believe how many people showed up. And my neighbors, I had one neighbor stand up and he said, if I would have known this was going to happen and I bought my house 27 years ago, I would not have bought my house.
Right.
I was like, wow, I'm just grooming dogs.
Yeah. Well, and I've heard, and I've sat through a lot of those meetings in the past, and one thing you always hear somebody say is, well, when I bought this house, they said it would never develop on the other side of the fence, and it always does.
Yeah, you can never guarantee that kind of thing.
Yeah. There's no guarantee in that. But so what was Scott, your husband, doing?
I got to tell you one more thing, though.
Okay, yeah.
A year later, with the whole thing with my neighbors, I said, look, I have to live here. If I'm going to upset my neighbors, I don't want to do this. So give me a conditional use permit. In a year, we'll come back and we'll review it. I went back in a year, and they had one letter from one neighbor stating that she had a stray dog in her yard during that year. That was the only complaint I had. So once I started, they were all fantastic. Right. They were just terrified with what I was going to do.
Yeah, it's fear of the unknown.
All right, Scott was working for Walmart. My dad was in Abilene working for Alco. Like I said, if I die and go to hell, I'll be back in Palestine. And Palestine was a very, very interesting town. It had 5 major prison facilities around it. It had 2 Walmart distribution centers in it. And once you got to Palestine, they didn't want to let management go. So Scott was working for Walmart in Palestine, and we kept requesting transfers because mainly my son had some serious allergies, and he was sick a lot, and he was on a nebulizer, and I just wanted out of there. And we kept requesting transfers. They would say, can you wait till Christmas? Can you wait till inventory? Can you wait? Can you wait? Can you wait? Can you wait? And finally we came up to visit my parents, and my son was really sick at the time. And my dad said, you know what? Go apply at Alco. They will hire you. So we did. Scott went in and applied at Alco at that point, and they said, can you start in 2 weeks in Nebraska? So he went to Nebraska, he went to Brush. We were visiting my parents in Abilene, and we got a call at my mom and dad's house from Alco, and they said, will you take this store? And we went for a really long walk, and we talked about it, and we said, no, this store, it's going to be a headache. Flagship store. This is really going to be a headache. We don't want this store. Went back home, said to my mom, no, Mom, we don't want this store. Then my mom started talking.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so great being close to the grandparents when you were young, yada, 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 yada. So, of course, we wound up moving to Abilene. Yeah. And then 2 years later, my dad quit and moved to Wisconsin.
It's funny how that happens.
Yeah, and now my dad's telling me how they need dogs groomed in Arizona, too. I will fall for that once.
Yeah, there you go. But business here has been very good to you.
Business here has been really good to me.
Yeah.
The veterinarians here have been fantastic to me. I have been very, very fortunate. When I started grooming on Charles Road, the Abilene Animal Hospital actually quit and sent me all their grooming clients.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, so that was an amazing boon. I still get referrals from the animal hospital. I get referrals from Blue Stem. I get referrals from Symbion. It is fantastic for me. I know if I have an issue with any of them, I can call, and they're always very helpful. I had a dog come in one time that I wasn't home. It was when my kids were younger. My son took the dog in, and I came home, and he said, "Mom, Barney's out there, and the owners want you to look at him because he acts like he's gagging." So I went out and I looked at him, and Barney was going, ah, 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 really lovely. And I thought, this dog has bloat. So I called the owners, and I said, "You need to come get this dog. You need to do it now, and it needs to go to vet right now, or he's going to die." So they did. They picked him up. They took him to Symbion, and Symbion operated on him immediately and saved him. And when he was ready to go, they called me and said, "Hey, come pick Barney back up again."
Yeah.
So anytime I've had a problem, if I have a dog that's sick and I call the animal hospital, they're always right there for me. Blue Stem is a little harder because they're pretty far away, but yeah, I've been super fortunate.
And that was one of the things I was going to ask you was about your relationship with the vets and that type of thing. But do you, as a boarder, do you have some kind of legal obligation, or at least you've got a moral obligation to tell an owner, "Hey, your dog is showing symptoms of this and that." I mean, not that you want to cross lines and be a vet, but how do you feel about that, and what do you do when those things occur?
Typically, I'm really fortunate because when you bring your dog in, I need your dog to be current on all of its vaccinations.
Sure.
And typically, the dog that comes to me that's current on all of its vaccinations, it's healthy. I do occasionally have an issue. Well, about a month ago, I had an issue where I had a dog that wasn't walking right. I didn't know what it was. And I called the owner and I said, "Look, here's the deal. You're supposed to pick up your dog in 2 days. I don't know what's going on with its feet, or if it's legs, or what it is, but it's not walking right. What do you want me to do?" And they said, "Oh, we'll take the dog to the vet." It wound up being an issue with the dog's pads. The dog is fine. But, most of my clients, if you're going to spend money to have your dog out at my shop, you care about your dog.
You're a pretty good
Yeah,
dog,
and most of my clients, and I do notice some things, like I've talked to people and I've said, "Look, your dog is urinating a lot and it really stinks." And they will take the dog up and the dog will have a bladder infection. I've never had a problem where I've had a client that I've said, "I'm concerned about this with your dog," and they haven't taken care of it. And you are right also. I do also have an issue sometimes I have clients that come in and they basically want me to treat their dog. And it's like, I'm not a vet. They'll say, "Oh, my dog's ears are nasty." And I'm like, "Yeah, your dog's ears look like they're infected. Well, what do you think I should do for it?" And I always just say, "I think you should take it to the vet." That's what I would do.
That shouldn't be a big aha moment. But
no, it really shouldn't. But, sometimes people want to save a little money.
Sure.
But there are things that I can't tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you don't want to take that, you can't take that on, I'm sure.
I can't, no. It's not my responsibility or my place.
No. So do you have a lot of, you're not grooming cats anymore, but do you do more dogs than cats, or is it kind of an even mix, or are there other animals that you also look out for?
I do almost probably 90% dogs. Every now and then I look at the cat cages out front because I can board, I think, 5 cats. Well, this will tell you, I've got 21 cages for dogs. I've got 5 cages for cats. Yeah. I don't usually have my 5 cages full. Sometimes I'll look at the cat cage and I'll think, why am I even doing cats? And then the next weekend, every cage will be full.
Everybody,
yeah. And, it's a service. Most of my clients, I hear many times, "Thank you so much. We really feel comfortable being able to leave our pet here." And it's a service. If you have a cat and you're concerned about it, that's what that cage is for. So.
Yeah. So what do you have some clients that, for instance, they're traveling out of the country, or they're going on a vacation for 2 weeks or something? I mean, what's kind of the longest? At some point, there's got to be a
longest
termination
time I've
to
kept
the
a
boarding.
dog was 9 months.
Wow.
Yeah. The next longest was probably, try to remember what the situation was. I actually had a woman that went into drug rehab, and I had that pet for 4 or 5 months. So, yeah.
So was the 9-month one, was that military person being deployed?
No, that was somebody that had some financial issues and was living with somebody else and couldn't keep his dogs where he was living. So I made him a deal, which I don't do very often, but I made him a deal, and he left his dogs with me while he got his life together.
Yeah. So what happens with stray animals? I mean, I know the Abilene Police Department actually is really good.
They are really good.
And very responsive when you have some issues. But with strays, do you get involved in that part of it at all? Or
Not very often. I pulled a couple of dogs from the animal hospital and found homes for them. The problem with me doing that too much is I tend to keep them. So I have to know my own limits.
Yeah.
I do occasionally have clients that will say, hey, I have this kitten that I found. And typically what I try to do with that is I try to say, you know what, if you want me to take it and place it, and I try to be careful with that too, because I can almost always place a kitten. Mm-hmm. But if you bring me a 4-year-old cat, I may have a 4-year-old cat 10 years later. And I already have 3.
Yeah.
I only need so many.
Yeah.
So typically what I do if I have a client that says, hey, I have this kitten, can you do something? I'll say, you know what, if you will take the animal hospital, you'll get its shots and you make sure it's healthy, I will see if I can place it. And usually kittens. Kittens are a couple weeks and they're gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't personally, as far as having stray dogs around my house, it doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. I know that a lot of other people in the country it does happen to, and I think people anticipate that it would happen here. I don't ever see them, and I don't know if it's because all the dogs in the kennel, when there's another dog that comes up, they don't sound friendly. They don't sound like, hey, let's come play. They sound like, get out of here.
Yeah.
So I hardly ever see a stray dog. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. So I imagine that you've been in this location now for
10 years.
10 years. That's what I was.
Yep.
That's what my mom was telling me. Do you think that right now you probably have most of the dogs you see are probably repeat customers?
Yes.
When you say that, so you've got a good built clientele.
I do.
Do you have like a waiting list or slot? Or probably not.
No.
Because they're kind of coming and going. But
yep.
Yeah.
And the problem is if you call me, sometimes over Thanksgiving and sometimes over Christmas,
right,
I'll kind of start a waiting list. But if you call me and I say I can put you on a waiting list, you have to have plans for your dog if you're going to leave.
Right.
So waiting lists don't really work.
Yeah. It's kind of a disincentive for the owner to take care of their business on their end of it. Right?
Now on grooming, usually I'm backed up about a week. Summertimes it's closer to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But not on boarding.
Yeah. So are there a lot of people that do, and I know that the pet shop in town does some grooming, mm-hmm. right? Are there people, competitors, I will say, that are doing it in their home? Is there a lot of that, or
not that I know of?
There's just not a whole lot going. Okay.
Not that anyone tells me. I know there's Kathy Chamberlain Chapman, and Kathy has been grooming for years as well, mm-hmm. and I do refer people to her sometimes. I haven't seen her for probably 2 or 3 years, so I'm assuming she's still grooming. But no, not that I know of. Okay. I don't think there's a lot of competition in the area. Yeah. And I'm also fortunate in the fact that I get a lot of dogs from out of the area. I have dogs that come from Hope. I have dogs that come from Harrington. I have dogs that come from Salina. I have dogs that come from Junction. I have a dog that comes from Clay Center. So
that was kind of one of the things I was wondering is if you've got a good stable customer base, mm-hmm. but they don't mind driving here. So you've got, what would you say, probably a 80-mile radius, 70-mile radius? You pull a lot from Salina, or is it mostly?
I think I pull more right now from Junction than I do from Salina. Mm-hmm. I really do. Harrington I get quite a few from. Like I said, I got a couple from Hope. Probably more the Junction area. So what is that? Probably about 40 miles tops. I have one that comes from Manhattan, but that's only one. Okay. So yeah, probably 40 miles tops.
Yeah. So you got into business fairly young. I mean,
I did.
At what point did you just kind of have that moment where you just realized that you loved working with dogs and
when I was 15.
Was you were 15? Not before that. Not 7 or 8 or something.
Well, if we're gonna go back that far,
you figured you could make money at it, right?
Well, if we're gonna go back that far, when I was a little kid, I had a stuffed Old English sheepdog, and it had really long hair, mm-hmm. and I was probably 6th grade. And I hand scissored my Old English sheepdog, so it was a short-haired stuffed animal. But as far as making money at it, I mean, that was when I went to school. That was just what I did to get by. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think about it, and like I said, I've got a bachelor's in journalism and master's in public administration.
Yeah.
And I really loved doing the geographic information stuff. I loved Dark Info. It was a lot of fun.
You don't want to get me started on that
Yeah.
that topic, because I love it too.
But when I think about it, when I really hardcore think about it, when I was 15, I knew what I wanted to do. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So.
See, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you figure, well, let me go find a real job and get a degree, right? And then you found out, well, this is a real job. And
it is a real job.
It is something that is very sustainable and something that you're doing well at.
And this is going way back around again.
Yeah.
So when I came to Abilene, people would see my poodle, Popper, and they would say, "Oh, can you groom my dog?" That's how come I got started here.
Yeah.
So that's how come I named the business Prim and Popper, is because if I didn't have Popper, I probably would not be doing this now.
Yeah. And Popper was a standard?
He was a standard.
Yeah.
He was a lot of fun. When he was alive, I used to take him to school and we used to do a dog safety presentation. And he was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, very cool. Well, I appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much.
And it's good to know you're here and providing a service that not a lot apparently are. I don't know, some of the vets, some of them board, right?
Yeah, I think actually I don't think Symbion does.
Yeah.
I don't think Blue Stem does. I think the only vet that boards is Abilene Animal Hospital.
Yeah. All right. Well, good luck to you in the future. I think it's great. And
you have a great day.
Yep, absolutely. And just to remind you, we're here at 1152 Old Highway 40, just east of town. And when you drive by, you'll see a sign that says Prim and Popper with a big silhouette of a standard poodle on there, and that's where Claire is. And we appreciate her in the community and as a member of the chamber. And it's just if you have any questions about boarding and grooming, just give Claire Anderson a call. What's your phone number here?
785-263-5442. You can also text me. Calls are kind of hard in the shop sometimes because there's always noise, but you can always text me.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a lot of fun when you go into the shop in there. You guys are up to your armpits in activity.
Noise and hair.
Noise and hair and activity, but it's a clean place, so it's well run. So anyway. I wanted to just kind of go ahead and wrap up today's show. You'll see it on YouTube. You'll see it on Channel 2. So find it and watch the whole thing. We would appreciate it. Once again, this is James Holland with the Abilene Area Chamber of Commerce, and you've been watching Abilene Means Business.